A flash of lightning, a crash of thunder. Prepare for all you know to be torn asunder. Actually, you know what? I'll let the official trailer handle this one.
そしてついに姿を現す未知のモンスターブライリュベルキュロス峡谷の空を舞う未知のヒルその大気を切り裂く雷が今ハンターに襲いかかる
Oh yes, today we will be talking a legendary flying wyvern of both Elder Dragon strength, but more importantly, intelligence. To give you just a little bit of instant excitement, this monster will actually change its moveset and fighting style depending on which weapon you're using, because it's intelligent enough to recognize and identify them and respond appropriately. Oh, that's so cool! But before we get to that, can we talk about the greatsword user in the official reveal for him? Like, I get it, you know, the cool idea of charging up an attack, battles beginning, but the monster is in the air, right? Is in the air above them. And this man is like, don't worry, guys. I'll get him. Gonna do a got you. Don't you worry. I'm gonna get him. Hits nothing and then gets blasted by lightning from the air. That's what happens there. Like, why are you making us look bad? Okay, then let's start this thing properly. Berukyurosu, a flying wyvern that goes by the Dancing Thunder Wyvern title. And dancing is quite appropriate, for it is very elegant, very quick, and very deadly. I say like deadliness is a usual associated term with dancing. Of course, the first thing you'll notice is its two whip-like appendages, which it uses to great effect. Firstly, it'll whip with them. Secondly, it'll run current through them, launch a variety of elemental assaults, and generally, they make approaching him that much more of an issue. Other than that, then, he has the kind of standard wyvern, flying wyvern frame. The wings, the feet, the face. I'm just describing literal body parts of living things, but that's okay. Honestly, I don't know how I feel about how he looks. I kind of like the head setup, I like the mane, I like the single horn. The rest of him is okay-ish. He's a very early on monster, introduced, again, very early on in Frontier. And his back is covered with little, like, tube-like things. He kind of gives him this insulated look, which obviously he needs from his own thunder. And him actually being able to be harmed by his own thunder is a very big point that we'll come into later. It's kind of cool in a morbidly hardcore way, but he is very much designed around his lightning manipulation, which is incredibly powerful. Obviously the lightning beams, but he can discharge massive amounts of it that electrify the very air itself in a huge explosion, which is one of his most potent and hard to avoid attacks. His little wing whips also end with hooks, so they can literally quite catch prey, and well, that is not something you want to happen. Like a fish on a hook, you will be very much out of luck. Other than that, he's got the physical roster of attacks you might expect for, well, a flying wyvern, especially one early on like this. And he will use them all, well, very much potently. As I was saying, he is a very, very clever boy. But before we find out just how clever, let's talk about his home. He is native to the gorge, which makes sense because gorge is what he will do to your body after soundly electrocuting you to death. And the gorge is a, well, as you might imagine, big old rocky canyon. Now this whole area used to be underwater. It used to be a sea before it became, well, what it is today. A light trickle of a river running through it, the only echo of its former watery state. You can find other monsters here like the weird ass fish thing, Puria, which a lot of people do like, and let's not get into him, but god, he's I mean, he can apply 5 different statuses to you. He's got an appetite that would rival Devil Joe, and okay, again, I'm getting past myself, but that's another creature that lives here. Now, our Mr. Berukyurosu wasn't discovered for a while because he simply doesn't leave the gorge. So until you explore it, you're not going to bump into him. But in the gorge, he truly is king. It is his dominion, his territory, and he has fought off the likes of elder dragons, the likes of Rajang. Everything that could be there, he has made sure no longer is, and he has the power to back that up. His precision is truly what's most impressive. Thanks to his body structure, those protrusions on his back that I'm still 50-50 on, he can quite literally direct current to specific parts of his body. If he wants to electrocute just the left tip of his left wing and do a very specific thunder jab with it, well, he can. If he wants to electrocute his entire body and use it all as a weapon, well, he can. He has the ability to really have a 0 to 100 and everything in between, fine electrical control, and that's really, really cool. Its scales are incredibly heat resistant as well, as having this much current flowing through him produces, well, a lot of heat. But back where he lives, it's quite an appropriate location for him. He kind of comes across as like a thunderbird, you know, howling over the canyon, that kind of romanticism, and it really does work. And honestly, it looks like a really fun map. At nighttime is when it's my favorite because it gets absolutely racked with thunderstorms and torrential rain, and that produces one hell of an atmospheric battle, especially when you are facing a, you know, dancing thunder Wyvern. There is wind jets pouring through the rock itself that can launch you around, similar to those on the Hoarfrost Reach as you climb the mountain, which is really, really nice too. There's also very unique types of cacti native here, which will give you various boosts if you ingest the juice from it.
Drink cactus juice! It'll quench ya!
Like, you can find various plants similar again on the Hoarfrost Reach, the naturally growing power berries there. So, to return to our Wyvern then, he, as I said, is quite the clever individual. In fact, they are incredibly so. Individual. A lot of monsters, members to members of the same species, they will act similarly, they will fight similarly, because that's what they do. Whereas when it comes to Berukyurosu, they very much have distinguishable personalities, they have their own unique traits, their own moves that they've learnt, and past that, their learning is extreme. If you bring a ranged weapon, he will camp on your face and try and get all close and personal. If you bring a big, heavy, slow weapon like greatsword or hammer, he will stay at distance and use ranged elemental attacks and the range of his whips to neuter you that way. He will quite literally change his entire approach, moveset, and fighting style depending on what you are holding. That is really quite cool. You can feel his eyes on you, you can feel him studying you, and, well, that is quite terrifying. Almost as terrifying as that weird kind of bally, spiky, red, stubby tail he's got going on. What is it? And what are the like little strips of paneling coming out the back of him above his legs? I mean, obviously it helps with his electrical control as a way to discharge them, and also helps him navigate and control himself in the air. In fact, he's quite an incredible flyer comparable to Rathalos. He rides the strong winds that howl through the gorge, and they act like rudders to stabilize him. He also is essentially immune to flash bombs in the air because he's constantly surrounded by his own intense, brilliant lightning, so at best they're just a mild annoyance. But I've not been this torn on whether I like or don't like the design of a frontier monster in a while. In any case, I would love to know what you guys think of that, but in terms of how he functions, there is no denying it's a really, really cool concept. Actually having a monster adapt to your weapon in a very dramatic and intense way. But talking of dramatic and intense, well, what happens when you start fighting, you start winning, you start breaking parts? You will actually severely cripple him. His enraged sees his mane flush red as he gets a much more orange hue, a symbol of his anger, and also a symbol of his horn, which he uses for his precise thunder control, pumping more and more power into his scales, heating them up and leading to that colour change. He also has extreme layers of insulating fat around his vital organs to really shield from the sheer output that he can produce. But as you chip away, you quite literally will chip away. You will break his parts, as is known to happen when you fight a monster, but the thing is, his parts are what insulates him. It's what stops him from shocking himself. It's what stops him from burning himself on the heat of his own lightning. So you can see where I'm going with this. Once he has been damaged enough, he will actually start severely hurting himself every time he busts out the thunder. And he will deliberately start only using intact parts to channel it, because the broken ones do cause him extreme pain. But it goes beyond even this. He very specifically hates being captured. He is too prideful. He won't let himself have the audacity of being rendered inert, unconscious, and at the mercy of his would-be aggressors. They don't take kindly to forced sleep. And indeed, should the time come that he is weak enough, that he feels that he might be getting captured, if his elder dragon level intelligence tells him that that's on the cards, well, they will keep themselves awake by shocking themselves, deliberately causing them pain, but maintaining consciousness. However, this can go even further. If there is no other option than to submit, well, he will take the ultimate way out. Short-circuiting his own heart, ending his own life in a final act of defiance, in a final act of spite. So that is your Dancing Thunder Wyvern, and yeah, very, very quite cool in how he functions. A monster that is still flying wyvern, but has so many Elder Dragon qualities that can react to your weapon, has such extreme precise thunder control, and will literally go to the most extreme of extreme lengths to avoid being captured. Along with its unique physiology of those whip-like arms, he really is quite the experience, and there's no denying that all of that combined is why he is the 5th most popular, or at least was, in Frontier. But it does go a little bit further. Occasionally, a Berukyurosu will learn how to use Dark Thunder. A very, very different, though of course still similar element. And when this happens, he will mutate into what's known now as a Doragyurosu. And this Dragon Thunder obviously gives him a much more potent set of abilities. His form changes to a greener hue with flashes of white, and I feel like it's no coincidence that as Dragon is infused, he turns more white. That is quite white Fatalis, isn't he? Is that a coincidence or not? In any case, he has quite the impressive arsenal now, and of course can inflict the dragon blight as well as paralysis, and he can travel around with dragon balls of energy that spin on the ground, and generally is a lot more explosive, powerful, and generally deadly. And that is really quite cool. I am a sucker for dragon lightning. I think it's quite a fun little combination of elements, and in fact I wish there was more combo element states that were actually used by monsters, but that is a talk for another day. Now, there are a lot of other versions of this guy, like a lot. He is quite popular. Doragyurosu, Dragon Lightning Boy. There is a hardcore version of him, which is souped up. There is a Zenith version of him, which is even more souped up. The Zeniths are pinnacles of their species. He's kind of crazy. There is even a Phantom version of him that's kind of like the hardcore, but with a few little changes, extra attacks. There's also a Supremacy version, which is considered to be one of the most powerful monsters in the entirety of Frontier, and this guy is absolutely nuts. Like the Phantom version, it will appear to die, but then rise again with Dragon Thunder once more, and his entire body will be burnt red as he enters his most destructive phase. It's just kind of absolutely insane. And even back to our base, normal Thunder Berukyurosu, he also has a hardcore version. So yeah, there's plenty of him to hunt. The question remains then, do you want him to come to the main game? I think like with Unknown, this is one where I love the concept, and that is more specifically what I would like to be transferred, as opposed to a literal one-to-one. And that's only because, again, I can't decide if I like how he looks. Maybe an updated model, a little bit of a reimagining on his form, but you can still tell that it's him. That would be a nice way to do it, and kind of give him a makeover, as it were. Retain his unique points of weapon reacting, the extreme thunder control, the whips, and the aversion to being captured, and then build from the ground up this concept. He is a beloved monster, and it is a shame that he is, at least as it currently stands, lost forever. I do think, like a lot of Frontier monsters, he has a few aspects that's really awesome, really unique, and that I don't want to see never appear again in the series. Let me know what you guys think, though. Like if you've enjoyed this, subscribe for more, and let me know what Frontier monster you'd like to see next, or indeed any monster from any of the non-main series. Please consider supporting the future of the channel on Patreon down below, and until we meet again, a goodbye.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.